welcome to What's Your Story? Another week with another great guest talking about just life in general and some of the things. And man, can't believe I got her to come back. And man, are we going to have fun? Because if you're not a member, you're going to want to be a member because, yes, there will be a members only clip and then we'll go public with it. But if you want to catch it firsthand, you're going to have to be a member to see Arwyn agreed to do the Padawannabe challenge, which if you don't know, I have vintage wax packs. So here's one. I have, so yeah. So gum from like 30 something years ago
Oh my.
on camera. That's a fun video to watch. So yeah, if you already are a member, there's a super cut of everyone doing that. So I kind of threaded together the 4 or 5 people who've done it. Daryl is still the GOAT because he did 2 sticks.
He did.
Crazy. So make sure you're a member for that. But even if you're not, listen, thank you so much for watching and subscribing and sharing, that kind of thing. Hopefully you get something out of this. Arwyn is just a great personality. She does her own channel and her own shows, but she's also more of just a presence in this group of friends and community fellowship. Call them whatever you want. We just enjoy each other's nerd company.
Yeah.
So, lady, thank you again for doing this. It's going to be fun to talk to you again.
Oh, well, thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I really have.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know, I had another channel called What's Your Story, and some of that footage of our original talk is on there. Some of it made it over to Pops. She actually was I didn't really stick with it. Maybe I should because she was my victim for doing like Pops quiz where we just like did random thoughts and questions, which we had a blast doing.
Yeah.
It just seems like one of those things that it's become time consuming, and I just keep forgetting to kind of like mix it in. So maybe I need to bring that back. But here we are again. And one of the things I want to talk about today was that you had done a video. It was kind of like a follow-up to things that we've talked about. You've talked about many, many times. You're very transparent. And that was, you've lost your husband. It's been a little while. But you did this video where you were really kind of talking about, and I hate this term in some ways, but faking it to make it. You were kind of like putting on this front of being in a good place or a better place than you actually were. So maybe explain that a little bit about kind of where you have been here recently and kind of what you were trying to say in that video.
Okay. Well, when I first kind of came out of what I call the dark cloud of grief, when you realize the sun is still shining, you do still have, you have to live. You get to that point where you have to make that choice. You're either going to, fold it all up, or you're going to keep going. When I came out of that, it literally was like, sunshine and roses, and everything was bright and new and fresh because your life does change, and you have to kind of accept that and realize, okay, I'm a brand new person. I've got a brand new life. I need to move on, and everything is great for a while. Because you're so focused on that, and you're so, tuned in to not being where you were before, because it's such a dark place. And I know for me, I don't want to go back there. I really don't. But then, like with anything, the newness kind of rubs off. That new penny is not so shiny anymore. And then the reality of the past will kind of hit you. And your reality of your new life will hit you. And there are times, there's still some songs I can't listen to, not because they necessarily make me cry like they used to, but because they remind me of a life that I'm no longer a part of. They remind me of a life that's gone.
Yeah.
And there are times when I can handle that and I'm fine. And it's like, yeah, let's go get them. And then there's other times where it's like, I just don't want to be reminded of that right now, because it will make me sad. It will.
Is it okay to not ever listen to those songs again? Because I have to be honest. You can tell me how dysfunctional this is. I have songs that are associated with like my ex-wives. So yes, Mr. Pops has been married before. It took him a while to figure out Mrs. Pops was the actual solution, even though it's been over 20 something years. Yes, there was women before that. And there's songs in particular. You mentioned music, and I was like, yeah, I don't listen to those songs. If that song were to come
Yeah.
on the radio, I changed the channel. The biggest nightmare, I was in a store one time and they were playing one of those songs over the intercom, and I was like trapped, like, oh my gosh. Is it
Mhm.
wrong to not even want, does like it's okay? Isn't it okay to delete some of that? Now your
It
situation is a
is.
little bit different, but I'm just trying to throw that out there for folks. Like some things I think it's okay to package and just like, whatever.
I think it is, but I think you have to look at the reason why you're not listening to them.
Yeah.
Are you not listening to them because you're afraid of them and you're not wanting to face what you're afraid of? Or are you not listening to them because you're like, no, that was in my past. I don't want to revisit that. Been
Good
there,
point.
done that. I'm done.
Yep. Yep. Good point.
And I think for me, I just don't want to revisit it. I just don't,
Mhm.
and it's not every song, but there are just some songs that I know will take me to a place I just don't want to go. I'm not ready
Mhm.
to completely, to deal with that. And yeah, there are some times which, even now and it's improved. It's gotten better even then, but even from, when I realized, ooh, yeah, this can still come on me at any time,
Mhm.
and that was and again, there's so many things just you don't know until you live through it. You just
Yeah.
there's no, I mean, yes, there are books and things of people that can say, okay, I can tell you how to deal with grief, but their way of dealing with grief may not be my way. The things they have to struggle with may not be the things I have to struggle with. And, I had always thought, and my husband and I had always talked, and this was before he got sick. He's like, man, I hope I go before you because you are the glue that holds this family together. And we'd laugh at that. The truth was, he was the glue that held this family together.
Mm.
That is the
Yeah.
cold, hard fact that I had to learn. And so, yeah, the faking it till you make it. I mean, there's some days when, I mean, y'all know me. I'm normally a talker. I'm normally social. My default, it is kind of bubbly and is kind of, just go with the flow. But going through this, there are some days when I don't feel like that, when I feel very depressed and I feel very dark and I feel very, you know, dang, what am I going to do now? I feel he's been gone almost 3 years. I feel like really I've only been living for 3 years.
But I
Be-
think you're trying to say it's okay to give your permission to have the days off for that. Like it's okay
yeah, you
to
have
not
to.
to
You
not,
have to.
because
And I fight it. I won't lie. I fight it tooth and nail.
yeah, we
And
have a
that's not
problem
good.
where we
Yeah.
have somebody that is very, very close to us, my wife and I, and they kind of cut us pretty deep. And it's
Hmm.
not one of those situations that's ever going to go away. Now, it's nothing as severe as what you went through. So please don't take this as a complete comparison. My
Oh,
point
no.
is
Pain is
that
pain. I get it.
yeah, so it's a painful thing that is not going to go away, and it's like when it comes on you or you have to deal with it.
Hmm.
Sometimes my wife will say, I'm just this," and there's times where she's mad at me because I'm not going to go there, and then it's vice versa, right? I'm in a place
Yeah.
like, "What's wrong with you today?" And I'm like, "I'm thinking about this," and she's just kind of like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
I think that we're not taught. I think that, like you're saying, it's like every self help book and deal with all this. It's almost like everyone makes it seem like you're going to get to 100% completion rate, right? You're going to
Yeah.
get to this 100% healed wound. And some of these wounds are just scars that don't completely go away. And every now and again, you end up
Mhm.
looking in a mirror and seeing that scar and going, oh, yeah. And it kind of takes the
Yeah.
wind out of your sails for the day. You know
It
what I mean?
does.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does. And that is one thing that I shared with, and I know she would not mind me sharing this because she's talked about it online a little bit herself. But when Arlena lost her dad,
Mm, yeah.
one of the biggest pieces of advice I gave her is you will heal, but you will also feel pain and it will hit you in the moments you least expect it. I
Sure.
said, you need to be prepared for that. And it's normal. And you will feel all of that all over again. And you won't know when it's going to strike you. But no one told me that. And I
Mm,
kind of wish they
okay.
had
Yeah.
because then I wouldn't be like, what's wrong with
Let's
me?
spin our wheels there then, because this is a good one. And this comes up a lot in my family because
Yeah.
when my father-in-law passed, it was such like an atom bomb for everybody. Because it literally was just,
Mm,
that's it, fell over.
yeah.
And the things that cause problems in my house, just to kid you not, and you speak to this because I think you're going through this. When my mother-in-law would make like a banana bread or a pan of brownies,
Mhm.
he would not eat the edges. He would cut holes out of the middle.
Okay.
So if somebody cuts something out of the middle, it is almost like turn on the waterworks, because you're
Yeah.
dealing with something that was so unique to that individual, and you're seeing it again. Similar to the song, right? It's an association with music that you have this very intimate with your late husband. So the moment you hear that those tunes, you're right there again.
You
I'm
are.
assuming that's very similar with other things like the brownie analogy, where there's something that's happening in your life. Maybe you could share one where it's like, when this happens, it takes me right there and I get emotional, and I thought I thought I wasn't healing properly because I would get that emotional, when now I'm starting to realize that's probably going to be the case. That may just kind of be a case.
Well, it's funny you bring up the brownies because it was months before I could walk by the Chex Mix at the grocery store without
Oh,
immediately crying,
yeah.
because the last week of his life, that's all he ate was Chex Mix and popsicles. That's all
Mm,
he could keep down.
yeah.
And so I was constantly buying, Chex Mix and popsicles.
Oh,
And yeah, and I've gotten to where I can do that now. I can walk by there, but I have not bought a bag of Chex Mix since. I just, one, I don't eat them, but two, matter of fact, I have a bag up there. His last bag, I still have it. It's up with his picture and his
mm,
ashes, and
right.
I don't know how long it's going to be up there, but until I'm ready to do something with it, it's happy sitting where it is. But for me, when I hear stories and I hear people talk about, especially if someone they're close to has just been diagnosed with cancer, and they talk about that, or they talk about them going through chemo, or boom,
Hmm.
I'm back there again.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
sorry, I had a little spinny wheel of death there for a minute. Um,
You were
but
saying
yeah,
that if a person starts talking about chemo and cancer and that kind of thing,
yeah,
how it just
yeah.
takes you right back to that place.
It does, it does, and I'm better with it now than I used to be. I used to be where, like, I can't hear this. Like if somebody was talking about
Hmm.
it in chat, or if it was brought up on a stream, I had to just kind of bow out. But now I'm like, I can kind of, I don't want to say use my knowledge. That sounds kind of pretentious, but
Personal experience.
thank you, personal experience. I can try and help them with, not talking about my story, but just saying, well, here's some things you can do for them. You can make sure they have blankets. You can make sure they have socks. You can, talk to them about the chemo if they even want to do it. I mean, these are things
Hmm.
you can do to make them feel comfortable and be heard, because it's not for everyone. Not everyone's going to decide to do it. And, my husband did it for a year and then he quit. He was like, I'm done. I have no quality of life. I just want to live out the end of my days, let God take me when he takes me, and, be with my family and not feel worse, because the treatment is for him was worse than the disease at that
Mm.
time.
Sure.
So yeah, I can share my personal experience to help them, but not, necessarily make it about me. So
So let's take stuff that's obviously, and the reason I wanted to talk to you about this, because yours is the most of severe situations. The only thing I could think that's worse than losing a spouse would be losing a child, right?
yes.
Losing like it's a young child
Yes, I
tragically
agree.
early or something like that. And that's not to take away from your loss. It's just to say
No, I agree.
these things are so severe. But I think there's a grief mechanism that we kind of have to go through, this healing process, this recognition of a scar and those kinds of things. It can just be you got fired from a job, you lost your
Mhm.
job, and we went through the pandemic, and people were just, their livelihoods are stolen from them,
Yeah.
their lifestyles are stolen from them. Some people just can't get their life back. I have someone I know that the brain fog thing, which sounded kind of weird and sketchy at first, there are some people who have some sort of legitimate side effect. I'm not sure that even as a scientist we can quantify that, but I
Yeah.
know from personal observation of someone who may never quite be the same again for whatever reason.
Mhm.
It's okay to know that, you know, it's hard to move on. Like it's okay to have difficulty knowing what to do with yourself. Like it's okay, and it's a different type of grief. It's a different type of anxiety and stress, but at the same time, I wanted to give you a chance to talk to those folks about like the 1 minute, 1 day at a time, you know,
Oh,
that
yeah.
that kind of thing. That really is usually my best advice is like, look, stop putting so much stop putting such heavy weights on yourself, but like little 1 pound weights, you know, like how about
Mhm.
we get through the next, you know, it's it's a quarter to the hour. How about we just get to 10 till the hour? And then how do we get to the top of the hour? You know, can we get to the
Mhm.
bottom of the next hour? It's like, you know, put on small weights rather than, oh, I got to get through this day and I have all this and I can't stop thinking about, okay, hold on, time out, right? Speak to that a little bit because you went through some of that, I think, right? You went through that. Like, how do I carve this into smaller,
Ooh.
digestible pieces?
Boy, did I go through it. Because see, I'm
Mhm.
kind of an all or nothing person. Anyway, that's just my personality. I like to, whatever it is, throw myself completely into it. Well, when I feel that coming on me, especially in the early months, it was, I had no answer. I
Mhm.
had no answer. I was just like sheer force of will sometimes to get from 5 minutes to 5 minutes because
Mhm.
that grief is so overwhelming, and it's not just the grief of losing them. Like I said, it is the loss of your life as you know it,
Mhm.
because really so much comes on the survivors when the one who has cancer is gone, because they're gone. They are not there to, especially when they're the ones who's your biggest fan, the one who gives you the pep talk, the one who,
Mhm.
he was my best friend.
Sure.
He wasn't just my husband. We were friends. We
Yeah. Your cheerleader,
genuinely
your
dug each other's
encourager.
company. Yeah.
Yeah. Your
So I
rock.
would want
Yeah.
the one I wanted to turn to mourn the one I lost wasn't there. And it's like,
Mhm.
what am I going to do? But now when I feel that at times, and nights are hard, I won't lie. I hate not being told good night. It's just, it has become one of my things now because no matter what, we always told each other good night.
Oh.
And so not getting a good night is, I've had to just, you know, bear deep and deal with that. And, sometimes I get good nights, sometimes I don't. But, it's a my thing. And I know that. And I don't want to put that on anybody else,
No, but
but
they're dealing with their own version of good night. Like I've been very
yeah,
transparent. One of the
yeah,
main reasons that I started doing pops and put my foot on the gas was it was a therapeutic mechanism to get through these few days where I want to say traveling, but I'm away from Mrs. Pops.
uh huh.
You know, we're getting ready to celebrate our 24th anniversary. So this isn't like uh honeymoon stuff. What we have routines and habits that are so ingrained in our
Yeah,
being, like you say, with good night.
yeah.
It's you know all right, so I'll say one. She won't she wouldn't be mad at me. She'd be all right.
Okay.
So we started texting this, and I think I saw it somewhere. I think I put in like an anniversary card. I don't know how it all. She will tell us exactly. She'll go. It was February birthday. I mean, that's how women are. I can't do that.
Yeah, well,
She we pull her up in a window right now, honey. When did this start? Um, I would say I love you more, and I wrote a thing about I love you more than I did this morning. I love you more than I did yesterday. I love you more than I did whatever. So it's not a competition. It's about saying I love you more, meaning that dot dot dot. So early in this phase, when I was not doing things consistently, I would do videos or I'd do this, and then I'd just be laying around. I was kind of, I want to say depressed, but I was just not right. And it was starting to put my head around these are the things that were getting me dysfunctional. It was like these were the things that were messing me up. It's like I didn't get that good night.
yeah,
I didn't get that version. So we
yeah,
had to change when we were talking to each other on the phone. We had to change, you know, give me something to do. My brain is not wired to just because I will just be lonely or sad, or I don't function
mhm,
like that. I have the ADD stuff going on. People are like, well, don't you? No, I don't. I'm on to the next video. There's
mhm,
no baggage of things.
yeah,
Um, and you have to find those things because everyone's going to be so different. Like I have another person that's very close who lost their job, just bam, gone. as far as I know, very few people knew for a few weeks. I was like mortified. Like,
Mhm.
whoa, how lonely and how hard would that have been? Talk about your life's taken away from you. Like that's
Yeah.
exactly the same thing. Your career's just stopped for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Um,
gone.
mhm.
And you have to, one of the hardest things I have learned in that, and I won't go into detail, but I will say with relationships, is I'm having to relearn how to have them
Mhm.
because I'm used to things one way and have been that way for years. And just because they're not that way doesn't make them wrong. But I am so stuck in just that routine and
Mm.
that learning and that conditioning that I'm having to relearn how to do that. How to kind of forge some relationships and realize just because it's not the way I used to do it doesn't make it wrong. It just makes me unknowledgeable.
Or it's just different, right? The world has
Yeah,
changed
it's
so dramatically.
different,
Like,
and
I don't
I'm
know about
having
you,
to
and
relearn how to do some things.
I empathize with you. Like you have no idea. I cannot imagine losing Mrs. Pops. And I can't imagine the amount of people who tell you, or at least insinuate to you, you should be
Mhm.
dating again or whatever, right? And I thought, because I think about that to myself, oh my God, if I lost this woman, I'm just gonna. The world is so dysfunctional to someone like me. I can't even fathom, like you said, what the new rules are and how things operate, and internet
Yeah.
personalities, and because
Mhm.
you're on this, you're in this
Yeah.
public forum as a creator, whether you like it or not. I mean, there's three
Mhm.
or four of you who are on everyone else's shows more than they're on their own thing.
You're right.
There's
Right?
a few of you that are like that. I love, and I have to be honest, at first I thought that was kind of odd, right? I thought that's weird. Why would you not? Then I thought, because the amount of work there is and how this navigates and what your voice is and all this kind of stuff that kind of has to go through
Mhm.
doing a channel, right?
Yeah.
Or we should just call it content creation. Stop thinking about just YouTube, because content in general, whether it be
Right.
music or whatever it is.
I agree. I
And I
agree.
realized, but see, everyone needs a team of people, and everyone needs to do the things that they feel comfortable doing and whatever.
Mhm.
And because you're so honest and transparent about your emotions or whatever, it plays so well with these other folks that you spend time with. That's what I think. I think that
I like that.
I
Okay.
don't think, and I don't mean this to diss on them, but I would say I enjoy VacTube more when you're there. I enjoy
Thank you.
Arlena more when you're there. And it's not because I'm trying to disrespect them. It's because it energizes them. It lifts them up, so to speak, if that makes sense.
We all have something that we kind of feed off of each
There it
other.
is. Feed off each other, right? And
Yeah,
once you
we
get
do.
going, it's like you're just hanging out. And it's just
Yeah.
so much fun. That's when the fun button gets
Yeah.
going and you're like there. So when you talk about forging these relationships, because this is a lot of what I think you found yourself in, it's like, man, I don't have like go to the grocery store type relationships like I might have had before, but because I now have internet personality relationships and I spend more time,
Mhm.
not just spending time with them, but also wanting to spend time with them.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And there's a pretty tight group of people that I really have become extremely close with. I mean, you mentioned Arlena, Daryl, Mark, Mary,
Mm-hmm.
Bat Steven. I mean, these people are core for helping bring me out of my shell, for lack of a better word. And they're all so vastly different. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's just what I love about it. And they'll all pretty much speak their mind. And I'm the little marshmallow of the group. I just want everyone to be happy and unicorns and
Oh,
rainbows,
the
and they're like,
marshmallow,
no, they'll
please,
tell you how it
whatever.
is. They'll tell you how it is, and they won't care what somebody thinks. And me, I'm just like, everyone get along. But and again, it was an unconscious decision. But what is that saying from that song? I'm afraid of the devil, but I surround myself with people who ain't afraid.
Hmm.
That's kind of me in a way. And but they have done so much to support me and to help me and to just helped me grow in this new life of mine,
Mm-hmm.
really. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so ironic because my husband used to tell me years ago, he's like, you need to get on YouTube and you need to find a community, you need to do a channel and blah blah blah. And I'm like, with what? Who's gonna care what I have to say about anything? And he was just like, you should do it, Arwyn. And I never did until after he died.
He was calling the shots. He just didn't know it. He
Once
was calling the
again, he
shots.
was
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But there is a time for everything.
Sure. Everything has a
And
season.
it does. And if I hadn't of just seen that stream of Lokis pop up in my feed that time and just taken a chance and gone in and stuck around, I wouldn't be on YouTube. I wouldn't be having a channel. I wouldn't. And as far as streaming more on other channels than my own,
Mm-hmm.
I had always said to myself, look, unless I have something to say, I'm not just going to stream. And some of the topics, and I've actually asked when people have been in my chat, I'm like, look, do y'all like these kind of mental health talks, or are they depressing? Do you want me to do pop culture? What do you want? And they're like, no, stay with it. And just sometimes, some weeks, I don't have anything I feel led to share.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to force myself just to come on and tell a story and I want to keep it organic and natural. And I know, some people would say, well, you got to stream, at least several times a week, or your channel's not going to grow. Well, then if my channel doesn't grow, it doesn't grow. I don't want to force it. I want to go on there when I have something to say and I have a reason to say it. Sometimes I think I've done one dedicated pop culture stream, and the rest have been things in my life that I don't know. Maybe somebody needs to hear. Maybe it's just, therapeutic for me to share it. I don't know. But then
It's
on the
funny
other
because that was
streams, I can
my
relax and I can kind of enjoy company and we can just kind of fellowship, and it's
yeah.
worked out.
It's funny you say all that because that was my what's your story right before Easter. It's like I didn't have a video. I didn't have a guest, and I was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking about, well, I'm just going to share kind of like the spiritual / mental place that I'm in. And there we go.
Yeah.
That's what you just do. You just let it go, and there it is. So I see
There
you
you
doing
go.
that, and I can know why people want more of it because of the genuineness of it all. And why we wanted to talk today too was because sure, first off, a lot of people may not even be married, let alone having to understand the impact of losing your spouse, but everyone understands grief
Yes, they do.
and
Yes,
everyone
they do.
understands pain
Right.
and trying to figure out how to work through that. Because sure, they may not be making videos, maybe they're not doing some of those kinds of things, but they got to get up. They got to do something
Yeah.
tomorrow. Maybe they got to go to a job that they hate, or they got to put on the face, doing a customer service phone call job, and they got to pretend that life is happy when
Yeah.
inside it's hard inside sometimes.
And I think that's one of the things that kind of is one of my pet peeves, is when people say, well, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing of what I'm going through. It's not the same thing. And I'm like, you don't have to have the same thing happen to you to understand, like you said, grief, pain, sorrow, loss. We can still empathize as human beings. We can still say, you know what? Maybe we didn't have the same experience, but feelings are feelings. Emotions are emotions. You can't always reason that away. Sometimes you feel the way you feel and you can't help it. And I hate feeling the way I feel sometimes. Like I said, I don't like being in that dark Scorpio moment of mine that I get in. I don't. I want to stay in my rising. I want to stay in my happy air sign, or my fire sign, my moon sign. I don't like getting in that deep, dark water. And it's hard, but sometimes you just got to grit your way through it, because what is the alternative? There is no alternative. You stay there and be miserable for the rest of your life. Life's too short, man. I learned that it is too short. You got to find some joy. You got to find some way to get that
and you
relief.
have to move. You have to, take a moment and assess what you can control and how to move it forward. So for instance, let's say you're going through like a major financial thing right now. Something happened. You don't have the money. or it's really going to be bad or whatever it is. Okay.
Mhm.
Put the steps in place to move it in the positive direction or whatever you can do,
Mhm.
and not live there because the world keeps turning. Good or bad, it is going to work itself out.
Good or
I mean,
bad. Yep.
good or bad,
It will.
you can only control so much.
Yeah.
And all of the rest of the time is you just wasting energy on worry. Because worry
Yeah.
is the worst emotion that you can get yourself kind of caught up, the worst feeling, because you're
I'm the
not
queen of
accomplished.
worry.
Oh,
I'm the queen of worry. I'm the queen of, oh gosh, someone who hears this is gonna lie, but I am the queen of, what is that term? When you preempt things, and it's almost like you're preempting problems before they arrive.
oh yeah. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
me too. Yeah.
The problem is you're almost like obsessing over it to the point where you make it happen.
In a
Yeah.
way, yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think there's going to be a problem and then you try and figure out every way to circumvent that problem, all you're doing is spending the majority of your time worrying about that problem when it's not even a problem.
It's not even here yet.
It's like,
Yeah.
don't go there with it if you don't
Mhm.
have to. And that is one thing that I have learned. And it is not easy,
Mhm.
especially when you're used to doing that. But, and some of that has come out of my loss. I never used to do that as much,
Hmm.
but it's like I'm terrified of being hurt. I'm terrified of being, that is something that I do have to deal with, of being put in a position where my heart's going to get broken,
Mhm.
because I never want to go back there. But I don't need to make problems for myself just because I'm worried about that. So these are the things I struggle with. And some days I'm great at it. Some days I'm like, nope, not going down that yellow brick road.
Mm.
Been there, done that. And
Oh,
other
those aren't
days
yellow
I'm,
bricks.
no, they're not. That's
That's a
true.
doom. Yeah, that's those are dark,
Yes.
bumpy, edgy brick
Horrible,
roads.
ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I was really,
Yeah.
because I used to be like that. Almost like, I mean, well, I did. I got an ulcer at one point at work,
Mm.
and it's just putting so much stress on yourself of things, especially things you can't
Excuse
control.
me.
That just
Mhm.
worry, things are upside down, things are not going well. You're
Yeah.
paying the price for mistakes that you made, paying the price for something that someone else did to you. It really
Yeah.
doesn't make a difference, because at the end of the day, you can only control certain things.
Right. Right.
Um,
That's true. Whew.
yeah, it's funny how much we all really are. And you said this earlier because you were saying it, is that we are dealing with the same things. Sure, it's easy for you to say, "Oh, you've never gone through this." Okay, you're being very specific with
Mhm.
your this, because we have gone through similar versions of pain and
Mhm.
suffering and loss and grief, all
Yep.
these hardcore decisions that on the surface someone could seem like they've got it all together. It could be you lost a parent, but it's been like 10 years. I'm like, yeah, but with the right trigger, that person goes right back to the day
Right
after,
back. Right back.
right back.
And it is amazing how fast that can happen and how
Mhm,
out of the blue you can be having
mhm.
a great day, and the song Smooth by Santana will come on the radio, and I'm just like,
Oh
because that
man.
was one of our songs, y'all. It's better now. It's better now. But, or nothing will trigger it.
Mm,
You'll just, maybe you'll just have a thought float through your head, and then you'll latch onto that, and your emotions will be like, I'm gonna stay here for a while. And you're like, what's going on? I was happy and now I'm depressed. What is happening? And sometimes it'll fly away and you'll be fine. And other times, especially if you start nurturing that and you kind of stay there, um, it'll stick around for a while.
mm.
But yeah, it's a wild
It's
ride.
interesting.
It is a
It's
wild ride.
See, Arwen always walks into something deep even when she doesn't realize that she's doing it. So let me take that part too, because she talked about
Okay.
how you nurture it, because you're nurturing the negative. And
Mhm.
I think about the very beginning when I started Watch Your Store. I had Loki on first, and then I had on Saggy Melons. And let's just take this as a generalization. Their approaches to drama are two completely different approaches to drama. Loki's more like, you need to go pound sand. I don't want to be involved.
Yeah.
And Saggy Mouth's like, well, it's going to come for you at some point. And how do you deal with that part so you're not nurturing the negative, you're not getting yourself caught up in all this other stuff too? You got your here's my thing. I got my own freaking baggage and stuff going on in my life. I ain't got time for y'all when it comes to that. You guys want to deep over. I don't even have the time. I have no mental capacity for that. I have no patience for that. I'm the intolerant dad who's like, I ain't got time for that. Go talk to someone else. How do you navigate not getting sucked into one of those negative sponge situations?
Well, I haven't quite figured out the key to that yet.
Oops, I walked into the landmine, didn't I?
No, it's fine. Again, it depends on when it happens. When I'm feeling strong and I'm in a right frame of mind and I recognize it, I can say, no, turn around, bye. I don't have time for you. When I'm not in a right frame of mind, or I'm not feeling as confident as as I do, or if I'm feeling a lot of layers, because you can have negativity from the outside, you can have negativity from the inside. You can have, those little bubbles of grief popping up. It is just a messed up layer cake sometimes. And if I got all those layers on that cake, I'm just going to end up taking a bite out of it and see what happens, because
oh boy. Yeah.
And it's usually not good, but it's like, well, they're all there. I might as well just dive in head first. But sometimes I literally have to stop myself and I have to say, Arwyn, no. Do you really want to spend the next 3 hours moaning and groaning and being miserable and making things that aren't there? Do you really want to do that? Is that really what you want to do tonight? You've got streams you want to watch, people you want to fellowship with, cats to feed. Do you really want to go down that BS
This
road?
is a woman that needs to go find her forks. She ain't got no time. For those of you who don't know that inside jokes, you're on your own figuring that one out.
There you go. Sometimes
yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more.
Like myself and say enough, and I've gotten to where 85% of the time that will work now.
Okay. Does it matter? Does it matter to you more? Does it matter to you more like who it's coming from? Because that would be the thing for me. Like, it'd matter more who it's from. Like, if it's the closer it is to the circle, the more likely I'm letting them go a little bit before I kind of call timeout.
Yes. Oh, yes. Especially, I've got some.
Let's say we had a panel of like a whole bunch of people on here. You got all these people that, let's say they're not really that close. I'd be like, oh, we're not getting any of that. But let's say the panel ends and now it's just you and me talking. Because of that, let's say you're closer in that circle and you start venting about something. I'm gonna be like, well, we can flesh that out if you want, or we'll go a little further. Pops is a mean therapist, just so you guys know, because I'm always going to turn it back on you, because I'm always going to go, and like, what does that mean? Like, what is the point? Like, what are we doing here? Like, and it's like, it's always going to go that way. That's easy to do, smaller and smaller and smaller, because the bigger the group, it's like, I don't want to talk about other people. I don't want to gossip and drama and whatever. You got something to figure out. I'll be happy to help and give you some advice, but I'm not getting in the middle of it. And I don't want to be talking about other people behind their back. I don't want to do all that. But like you said, if you got your own layers of cake to deal with,
and I have found, though, if like, because one of my friends has dealt with drama for almost 3 years, probably more than 3 years at this point. And I know when they share it, they are just sharing their experience of it. They're not trying to be dramatic about it. They're not trying to gossip. They're not.
Sure.
So I will give my friends way more leeway with that, because I know where they're coming from. I know where their heart is. I know they're, like you said, they're either just venting or they're trying to say, hey, this happened to me. I'm just trying to share y'all some things that I did to where it won't happen to you.
Right. Okay.
That's
like a therapy. Correct.
Right.
That's different than.
Yes.
I don't know.
But if someone comes to me,
I don't want to do about person X, RN. Did you hear them say this on this stream? You'd be like, no, I don't.
Yeah, especially
Hold
if
on,
it
time out.
involves anyone I'm close with. If
Yeah,
anyone comes to me with, well, so and so said that, I'm just like, back off.
yeah, I don't want any part of that.
Not going to entertain it, especially if it's about any of my friends, because I may be a marshmallow, but I'm also a mother, so I know how to tap into that protective side.
There you go. That's the way you do it. You have
Say,
this
not gonna do this.
instinct that you have to protect
Yeah,
the circles. And then as a
and I
person that
will.
yeah, and then as the person that, puts on the pastor hat, I just feel like, listen, my job would be to keep things as private and secured and confidential as I
Yeah,
can. I don't even want to have some conversations that I feel like could be construed wrong
right,
as though I'm talking behind someone else's back, because that would not be my intention.
right.
Because unless it was an area of concern, unless it was to say, I'm really concerned about Arwyn's mental health, this is what was said. I'd
Hmm.
be like, okay, I can
Yes.
see where you're coming from. Why don't we do dot dot dot, or why don't I do dot dot dot, and
Mhm.
why don't you do dot dot dot, which would be more like an area of concern. Is someone coming to you and trying to say, I think I heard this right, and I'm concerned about someone, rather
Yes.
than, did you hear what so and so? I'm like, okay, no, two
Motive
different
goes a
things.
long way.
Motive.
Motive
Thank
and
you.
approach.
Motive.
Those go a long
Hmm.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
How do you navigate? So we'll get away from some of the deep personal stuff, since we're coming along some of the time too. So, how
Mhm.
do you navigate the fact that so much of what we love is become so negative? So much of what well, so for instance, we were
Ah.
talking before this started about, listen, I should have a mod. First off, if you're out there and you know how to help make shirts, and I need shirts that are done so that they're not costing people like $25 and $30. That's my shtick. I
Mhm.
will make a million shirts, but I'm not doing them so that people would have to pay $25 and $30 to get them. I don't want to participate in that part of it. I got to come up with a
Mhm.
different solution. But I need a shirt that says, I watch it so you don't have to. Pops watched it, so I didn't have to. I'm watching Mandalorian, so some of you people don't have to. Some of the
Ugh.
stuff we love, Arwen, has become so negative. It's it.
Yeah.
So here we are dealing with our own personal things. We're dealing with our own dramas, our jobs, our life. You're lost. All these different things are going on. The things that you'd escape to are like Debbie Downer after freaking Debbie Downer, man. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, how do you deal with that?
I go to the old stuff.
Mm,
I do. If I ever find myself getting to the point where it's like, because I mean, look, we know IPs have been burned. We're not living in La La Land. We know a lot of them have just been
mm,
burned. They're done. But when I find myself getting to that point where it's like, i- not just the incarnation of the IP is dead, but the whole thing is dead,
mhm.
I go back to the old stuff and the reason why I fell in love with it in the first place.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And I embrace that and I relive that and I remember, I'm like, these are so good. Yes, the new stuff is tanked. What are they thinking? And it doesn't need to be that way. And I'll start going down that rabbit trail, but then I'll remember, but you know what? Things change.
Yeah.
Things change that you
Okay.
have no control over. So I go back to the reason why I love them in the first place. And I will rewatch those and I will reinvest my time in that. And that helps a lot. I'm like, you know what? Okay. Yeah. They ruined it. This IP is done. It's over. But this isn't over for me. The
Mm,
new stuff, I don't need it to still love what I love. I really don't. If my
awesome.
story ended at, the prequels of Star Wars, if those 6 movies, the originals and the prequels, if that's my Star Wars, that's my Star Wars. I'm
Mhm.
okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't have to know what happened with Luke and what happened with Leia and that Han died, and I don't need all that. I can make up
I
my
don't
own
need
dang
to
story.
I don't need to go back there. Right?
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
had your dose, you know it's bad, you just don't go back there. Like
I don't need to go
you don't
back there. I don't
right,
have to
right.
revisit it. And good grief, when I'm enjoying Picard 3 better than Mandalorian, come on now.
Well, I have said, when young adult shows like
Wow.
Wednesday, and
Yes.
now I'm watching one called School Spirits on Paramount. when those are better and more
Yes.
entertaining than these massive IPs, something is horribly wrong.
Yes, it
When
is.
Miss Marvel is among the better shows that they have made, not that it's for everybody, because it's obviously a teen girl show,
Mm-hmm.
but it's fundamentally a better show than
Yeah,
most other things, something is wrong. And
I agree.
you've seen what I've done with my content. I'm doing Saturday morning cartoons for the love of Pete. Every Thursday, I'm talking
Yeah.
about some old movie. I treat them as palate cleansers and where they keep my mental health. So, what are some of the things? Because you mentioned that you're enjoying Picard season 3. What are some of the other things you're doing or reading, watching, whatever you're doing that bring you some happiness and joy?
Oh, always Lord of the Rings.
Hmm,
And excuse my kitty, she's crying.
that's fine.
Always Lord of the Rings, whether it's the books, whether it's the the Jackson films, The Hobbit, again, the book, the original, the Rankin Bass
Mm-hmm.
animation. I love that. It is awesome. I even enjoyed the films. I know they weren't perfect, but I will say that that first Hobbit movie got me through a lot of those months following my husband's death. I had that thing on a loop. I don't know why. It was just
Sure.
it was comforting to me. It comforted me. I didn't have to be there, watching it the whole time. I could just hear it and be like, okay. It was
Oh,
like
so funny
it
you say that.
tethered me. It tethered me.
When I would get a migraine, this is before we moved, especially not so much now. We don't have a TV in our room at all anymore. That was one of our things. We had to get rid of a TV in our room. But if I had a migraine or something like that, I had to have sound on, and I would play either the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, but more likely Two
Mhm.
Towers, which is insane to think about that someone who could fall asleep or try to, but it was just this perfect
Yeah.
mind experience and peace and joy, and I'm just having positive thoughts. And now when I see them, I always think about that. This movie's made me happy so many times. Thank you.
Exactly. It's just, we have these things that are our touchstones, that are our tethers, that are our and I think, I mean, okay, there is a place for discussing the new IPs and how they've been pooched. I've done it. I had a whole series on, Rings of Power with Shield Maidens, and we'll do it again when season 2 comes up.
She
But
watched it, so I didn't have to. I didn't even make
right,
it. I
right,
did when the paper thing went in the water, and there was like I'm out. Well, this is just not going to go well. I'm not.
right.
So
But
um
that old time discussion, who's the better captain? Kirk or
yeah.
Picard, or
Hmm.
then Cisco, or then Janeway. Those discussions never get old. And it's because we
No.
love those series. We love them. So going
Yeah.
back to what you love and discussing it, that never gets old.
I agree. I agree. So listen, with that, folks, you aren't going to want to miss. If you're not a member, you'll get it first. I promise we'll share, but we're going to talk about Saturday morning cartoons with this lady. So I'm going to have fun doing that. And then, of course, we're going to do the Padawan challenge. So make sure that you check all that out. Make sure you're supporting us. Subscribe to her channel. All the contacts are down there for her and all the stuff to connect with her. She's so gracious with her time to be with me. Watch your story. And listen, guys, reach out to her. Leave comments on her videos too about things that you're, experiencing or whatever, because sometimes it's just us locking arms together, right, Arwyn? It's
Mhm.
us just putting our arms around each other virtually to say,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I understand how you feel. I
Mhm.
understand how you feel. So,
And I've had
um,
people actually DM me after
mhm,
streams and say,
mhm.
"Hey, I'm going through this or I'm going through that," or, and we've just kind of
Sure.
chatted about it. And I'm always open to that,
Yeah,
just
me too. I've had prayer people who go, listen, would you pray for my mom? Would you do this? Would you call me? I
yeah.
need to talk to someone. I don't know how to pray. Can you pray with me?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our doors are open for those kinds of things. But again, thank you folks for being with us this morning. Appreciate that so much. Thanks to Arwyn again for hanging
Thank
out.
you for
And
having
it's been awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Be blessed, talk hard, and I'll see you next week.